going to tell you a few secrets how to get inside. Number one, there's a cinema theater, one of the best cinema theaters in the city. I mean the best because it's really beautiful inside, neoclassical design. It's called Illusion, like illusion in English, and there you will be able to see old movies. So it's a really nice place to visit. Number two, there are cafes and restaurants. There used to be more. Again, the idea of this place was to have like the heaven for the elite. So you would have everything in one side, everything in one place. There were changes. By the way, there is one secret, even for Russians. They have a supermarket. So everyone goes to a supermarket, right? But what is confusing, even for Russians, that this heaven for the elite has one of the cheapest actually supermarkets in the city. It's called Peterechka. So, you know, when you think of something for the elite, for rich and famous, you hardly imagine something like that. But at the same time, the interiors are stunning, are gorgeous, because there you have you know, Soviet columns, you have this beautiful design. So it is really a beautiful place to look at. And you know, there's one more secret that I learned, although it's as a job, but you know, there were many questions by Russians, how to get inside, how can I see these apartments. By the way, there used to be a museum, now it's closed. It was a museum of one of the ballerinas, Galina Ulanova, so hopefully it will be reopened. So it's certainly quite interesting to see these apartments. Well, one of the tricks is, well, you know, you can just ask to look at the apartment. You can say, well, I want to buy an apartment. So the prices, I'm going to say it in Russian. For years it was considered to be over 140 million rubles. So it would be hundreds of dollars. Now you can find some cheaper apartments because again, it's not the newest building. But interestingly, even when we pass by some new buildings, you'll get to see that the one that I'm showing you is still considered to be more prestigious. Many Russian people still love history, they're proud of history. And again, I keep talking about this building because there are so many that were books and memoirs written about it. So it's certainly a special place for our culture. So behind, on the left, or it's on the right side if you're going so straight. So it will be on the right side. We have the place from the 18th century, and it's hidden. In Russian, when we say that it's hidden under the reconstruction, we will use the term it's in the forest, which is quite interesting. It certainly looks like it's in the forest, you know. In the city center of Moscow, it is hiding from us, but hopefully it will be opened again. We don't have that many buildings from the 18th century, and let me tell you why. There is just one of the confusing facts about our city. Well, many people who come to St. Petersburg, they think, well, it must be older than Moscow, but it's much younger. Again, Moscow was established in the 12th century, in the mid-12th century, and St. Petersburg is only from the beginning of the 18th century. But the history of the city was really turbulent, really difficult. So we had many fires. So So if you think of it, at that time there were many wooden buildings. Well, you know, for, let's say, not the richest people, for ordinary people, they had wooden buildings. So of course, after fires, many didn't survive. And one of the biggest fires was in 1812, when we had war with Napoleon. So that's why it's really meaningful. Again, this satellite, so-called, is the concert hall, Savior Park. One of the best places to walk around in the city. Oops. Hello. Yeah, I think I'll go back to check.
No laptop.
No battery.
The best,
No laptop.
the Kremlin is the residence to live. Well, officially, again, it's the working residence, but it's certainly beautiful to walk around. As I mentioned, we have the Armory Museum, so you will need an additional ticket for the Armory Museum to go. And it's one of the best museums in Moscow because, again, treasures of the royal family. So obviously it's really nice to walk around. Kremlin offers its tour guides, so they have also professional and highly qualified tour guides, and it's one of the landmarks, or you can say pearls of Moscow. It's often reconstructed. You can see there frequent reconstruction works. The white building at the background is Pashkov Mansion. One of our writers, Mikhail Bulgakov, referred to it as the most beautiful building in Moscow. It's really nice and charming. So the city center can impress you a lot with our architecture, with the, to be honest, even many layers of architecture, because the Kremlin, by the way, belongs to the UNESCO Cultural Heritage List. So inside the Kremlin you have, again, the oldest structures in Moscow. The 15th century, then you also have the 16th century architecture, 17th century, even actually the 20th century. So going there, going inside, you will be able to learn about layers of our history and our design. And now the one and only, the Cathedral of the Christ the Savior. It's huge, it's big, so it's hard to miss it. In fact, it's actually the tallest Orthodox cathedral in the world, the tallest, over 100 meters, and it's the biggest Orthodox cathedral in Moscow. One of the biggest in the world. The biggest in Russia is in St. Petersburg, is Saikivsky, and the one that is also considered to be among the biggest is Saint Sava in Belgrade. But you know, going inside you will be stunned, because this space, the atmosphere, it's certainly interesting, but at the same time its history is no less intriguing. I've already mentioned that it was rebuilt, so it's a copy. Can you imagine that it was built only 20 years ago? It was opened in 1999 on the 31st of December, so a little bit more than 20 years. So when it was demolished, the idea was to have the tallest building in the world, the Palace of Soviets. The project wasn't realized, and instead we had a swimming pool. What do you think? Is it a nice idea to have a swimming pool right in the city center? You know, when I do tours for kids, well, mainly Russian kids, and I tell them this story, you know, we had a cathedral, then we planned a palace, which actually is supposed to be 400 meters high. So just compare. In front of us, 100 meters. And then, oh look, people greeting us, they're waving. That is really nice. So, and by the way, the background behind the trees, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, also one of the Stalin's skyscrapers. So yeah, most of the kids would say, well, of course, the swimming pool is the best idea. It was an open-air swimming pool, so many Muscovites needed, but at the same time, the swimming pool needed reconstruction. And back in the 90s, many people donated money to rebuild the cathedral because it had a special place in their hearts. It was more than just a cathedral. It was the symbol of the Orthodox Christianity. Look at this beautiful building. It has mosaics that represent some kind of like creatures from Russian fairy tales. It is certainly a very special place. Now it's not possible to go inside, and most of the buildings on the embankment on the in front of us would belong to diplomatic missions, or they would belong to embassies. We have one area near to where we started the tour, where we have kind of like a city for embassies. The other one that you can see with the flags, which again looks like a lacquer box or something,